Hello, this is your friendly nurse and health coach, and I'm coming today on cooking oils, the good and the bad. As we spoke earlier, cooking oils and frying in high heat. The high heat of the cooking oil changes the oil itself. I had an experiment with that yesterday by accident. I had some frozen vegetables and I laid the frozen vegetables on my stove and I turned on the cap that I was about to use. I thought, but I turned on the wrong cap and I turned on the cap where the frozen bag of mixed vegetables was. And after a while, I smelled something. I'm like, what's that smell? And the smell was the mixed vegetable bag was burning and smoking. And also, as it was smoking and burning, it gave off this terrible smell. And I'm like, what's that smell? And then it came to me, that's the boiling point it have came to. It have changed the chemistry in the bag of the vegetables. And I tried to eat them and they was tasting terrible. And I'm like, whoa. So this is an example. I'm getting a first-hand example of what's the chemistry of the different oils turn as they are heated up. So I end up disregarding all the mixed vegetables, and this was organic mixed vegetables. I had threw them all away because they was tasting awful. So that's what's happening in cooking oil. The higher the heat, the boiling point, it's called oxidation, is changing chemicals in that oil. They boil, they take the seeds, our beans, or whatever they finna make the oil out of. They turn the heat up on it. This is how they make the oil. They turn the heat up on it. High, very high, on different oils, different heat, boiling points that we're gonna go through. And as they try to take the oil out of the seed of the bean, they have some chemicals that they mix called hexane. One of them, Hexane, hexane. And hexane is a very toxic chemical. They take hexane and boil it to a high pressure, and keep on boiling to a high pressure to extract the oil out of the seed of the bean. They press it and they boil it, and they press it and they boil it. They get the oil out of the seed and the bean, and that's how they make the oils. But it's hexane chemicals that they use to extract the oil out of the bean or the seed, or it's the seeds of what kind of oil they making. All that toxic chemicals of the hexane does not come out of the oil as they, what we call oxidation taking place. Some of it stays in the oil, and hexane is like gasoline or diesel. And you know, gasoline and diesel is very toxic and poison. We wouldn't normally put it in our body. We put it in our vehicles. But as you don't know, you put it in your body as you're taking these toxic oils that have been used, hexane have been used to extract it out of the seed or bean that it comes from. So we are going to go through the oils from the worst to the best oil and show you how it have been damaged by the high boiling heat and the dangerous toxic hexane chemicals that have been put in the oil, and how it have been changed to what we call fatty acids. Fatty acids are the building blocks of the body. The fat is turned into energy in the body and go to different parts of the body. These are called the fatty acids. And a fatty acid can be omega-6 or it can be omega-3. Omega-6 is unsaturated, what we call unsaturated fat, and I'll tell you why it's called that. And it's found in vegetables, oil, and nuts, seeds. But there's really no such thing as vegetable oil, and we're gonna find out about that. And in small quantities, omega-6 is good, but in large quantity, it is not good. So when this oil is at its boiling point and changed, and the extraction of the hexane chemicals that are put in it, it changes the omega-6 to a higher stage than it should be. And that will cause it to be dangerous when the omega-6 is higher than omega-3. Omega-3 is also good for you. It's good for your heart, your strokes, vascular diseases. But omega-3 is not got as much fatty acids, the building blocks of the body fat. It have not got as much body fat as omega-6. So when these oils are extracted with this chemical hexane out of the seed of the bean to make the different oils, the omega-6 fatty acids are elevated over the omega-3, and that is dangerous, as I say, to the heart, to the vascular systems of the body, it may have stroke your brain, many harmful diseases, especially inflammation diseases and autoimmune diseases to the body. So we are going to go through these oils, and from the worst to the best, to tell you why are they saturated, some of them, why are they unsaturated. It's always been a theory that saturated products are bad for you. Saturated is the natural fat products. And they always said the unsaturated products are the best for you. But lately they have found out that the saturated products are better for you than the natural products are better. And we're going to tell you why. The saturated products is a molecule change in each product as it's heated up. Each oil as they heat it up is a molecule changing, chemical changing taking place called oxidation. So when it comes to that boiling point, it's going to depend on what those molecules bend, how much they bend. So in saturated fat, when they put this saturated fat, the natural fat, that's from the beef, the cattle, the pork, whatever natural fat of the animal products. When they put it in that natural fat, bring it to its point of boiling, the hydrogen and carbon that's in the atom that make the molecule, remember the You take that atom, you got to have that atom of electrons, protons, and neutrons to make life form called molecules. There's chemical changing in your body. As they bring it and boil it and put it to that boiling point, smoking point, it changes into some hydrogen and carbon bounding chemicals in the body. And if that molecules, chemicals in your body is straight line, it don't bend at that boiling point, it's called saturated fat. And saturated fat do not bend no matter what pressure is being put on it. With that boiling point pressure has been put on it, it does not bend. It stays in a straight chain. And that's why it's so vital, good for the organs and cause less health problems, because it's developing its own fat. Saturated fat have its own fat. If you cook some hamburger, you don't have to put it in oil. You can put it in a cast iron pan, stainless steel pan, or ceramic pan. Those are the 3 pans or pots you should be cooking in. Stainless steel, ceramic, or cast iron. You put it in those 3 containers and begin to cook that saturated fat, that animal fat. You're going to see it makes its own oil. And when it's making its own oil, it's more healthy for you, because it's not going through some extra stages of the bounding point of that oil is not changing into different stages. It's in a straight line, continue to have the same amount of hydrogen and oxygen to make that molecule non-bending straight molecule, which is saturated fat. And that's why it is so crucial, better for their health than the unsaturated fats, because it does not bend. It stay the same. It stay in its natural state upon the boiling point of heat. It does not changes it. Cows, do you see cows eating themselves? No, they eat grass, and grass bring us beef tallow. You eat hogs, they don't eat themselves. That cow is continuing to eating that grass out there in that field. So therefore it's getting more proteins in it. So it's going to give you a better oil, as if it was mixed with all other stuff. So the binding, 4 bindings, which is 4 hydrogen, 4 oxygen, and a hydrogen, making a straight smoking point, stable line for the saturated fats. So you want the saturated fats oil to cook in, because it is a better oil. It don't bend under heat to make it change its chemistry. Unsaturated, now become unsaturated oil, you missing some of your hydrogen and your oxygen are missing. You don't have the same amount of hydrogen and oxygen like the saturated oil in the unsaturated oil. Remember, un means not. It's not complete. Saturated, it is complete in its making its atom, its molecules. Same amount of hydrogen, the same amount of oxygen is in the saturated, but not the unsaturated. You're missing some of your hydrogen and your oxygen. And if you're missing part of your molecules development, which is your atom, then you're going to begin to bend. You don't have as much strength and power like the saturated one. You got some hydrogen and oxygen which developed in the atom or the molecule. You got some missing in the unsaturated oils. So that's what makes unsaturated oils more dangerous for your health than the saturated oils. Then you got the polysaturated oils, which bend, but they go up when they bend. Put more and more pressure on the products of the oil, whatever's being cooked. And so it's unsaturated oils. You got your polysaturated oil and you got your monosaturated oil. Unsaturated oil. You don't want unsaturated oil. You want the saturated oil, the natural, the real deal that do not bend when it's heated up. So it's depending on what oil is being used, whether it's going to be saturated or unsaturated oil. You want an equal number of hydrogen and carbon atoms to produce that oil, to stay in that oil on a straight line. You want that saturated natural oil to use to heat your stir fry or whatever you're doing to your food. And we're going to go through 10 of the oils, starting at the worst oil, to have a high boiling point and more of a saturated, unsaturated oil. And we're going to go all the way to the best oil. So, if you raise the omega-6 higher than omega-3 fat, you're going to run into some problems. And a lot of oils are in that state in these fast food places. They're not using the best oils that's going to not bend under the heat pressure. The number one oil of the worst oil of all is the flaxseed oil. Flaxseed oil is not for heating. You shouldn't heat nothing, heat it up at all. Keep it in the refrigerator. It's got to be cold pressed. It's not to cook with. Flaxseed oil at all. So leave it out of your oil. Leave it out of heating it. Use the flaxseed oil just like it is on your foods. But keep it in the refrigerator. Okay. Saturated wise is on a number of 9. So you should not heat it up. Unsaturated oil is an 18. And the polyunsaturated oil of it is 68. So the boiling point is 225 degrees of flaxseed oil. which is going to cause some damage to it because it don't supposed to heat up at all. So when you start to eat up flaxseed oil, you can run into some problem, inflammation, autoimmune sickness, and a lot of people getting autoimmune sickness now. So you should not heat up flaxseed oil. That's the 10th worst oil. It's flaxseed oil. Just use it cold pressed just like it is, and you won't have no problem. Flaxseed oil is healthy for you. It's good for your heart and every area of your body. But it's only good when you use it cold pressed, not heated up. The next worst oil is soybean oil. Soybean oil, they use a hexane in it to try to get it out of soybean. And that's what they call in vegetables oil. And it's bad for you. There's no such thing as vegetable oil. But they're trying to get extract oil out of the soybean. And that's bad. And they use the hexane. But it's bad because they use the hexane, the chemicals that I told you was like gasoline, diesel. Very toxic and poison to the body. For a lot of inflammation. And remember, inflammation, everything starts at inflammation in your body and turns to infection. And goes on to cause it sickness and disease and kill you. So soybean oil is not to be used with heat. And they use it with 453 boiling point heat Fahrenheit when they're trying to get it out the soybean. And so it makes it more toxic the higher the heat, the more it's going to bend. It's unsaturated oil then. And so was the flaxseed. It become unsaturated because when they start to heat it up, because it's not to be heated up like that on high heat, and they making those oils out of. So it's like a 16, only 16 in the saturated fat. But it's 23 and 58 in the unsaturated fat. That's what list is on. So at 453 degrees in soybean oil, and they said they cooked it in vegetable oil. You producing that hexane chemical of gas and diesel, and they put it in your body when you're frying with this oil. The 8th worst oil is canola oil, believe it or not. There are different types of canola oil, but canola oil is GMO, genetically modified oil. That means it is not real oil. They produce this oil, and it's got a lot of pesticides in canola oil. I heard one doctor told somebody, my aunt and uncle, matter of fact, years ago, that canola oil was the best kind. That was as wrong as it could be. It was because canola oil is unsaturated oil. It bends under the heat. And sorry to say, we did lose them not too long after that. And it's got a 7 when it comes to being saturated. That's how low saturated it is. And it's unsaturated unsaturated oil is 63, and poly unsaturated oil is 28. And the boiling point is 400 Fahrenheit degrees. Canola oil is boiled under. Remember, the higher the heat, the higher the boiling point, the more it's bending. That oil is bending, and this oil is really bending. It's unsaturated oil, canola oil, which is produced under the chemistry of this hexane, gasoline, and diesel. It turns into, and that's, I got a feeling that's what happened to my um, vegetables. I told you I missed and put on the wrong cap and turned the cap on. When I smelled that turbo odor, I got a feeling that I had produced some kind of strong chemical like gasoline or diesel, because it smelled it off, and I started to eat it, and like, ugh, it tasted terrible, and I had to throw it away. I guess I just had to go through that as I was studying this saturated, unsaturated, to prove that it's right. The more you heat up these dangerous, these oils, and extract them with these chemicals, you getting all this dangerous toxic chemicals in your body, causing inflammation and chronic diseases and sicknesses in your body. Okay, the fourth worst oil, the seventh worst oil is safflower. Safflower oil, that's not natural at all. It's not natural at all. It's got like 8 in saturated. It's only 8 in saturated. There's a small number of saturated molecules in it. It's high in monosaturated, which is 75, and it's 13 in polysaturated. And the boiling point is 450 Fahrenheit degrees that they boil this safflower oil, which makes it unsaturated. It bends. The sixth worst oil is avocado oil. Avocado oil is not to be cooked in like that. When it is cooked in a high heat, like 520, and that's how they get it from the seed of avocado. They boil it with the 520 degrees. It bends to unsaturated toxic. It's 12 in saturated only, 74 in unsaturated unsaturated fatty acid, and it's 14 in the polyunsaturated fatty acid. That's what avocado is. When they heat it up, the avocado seed, to get it out, and they put in the chemical hexane in it to help extract it out of that seed. If you're going to use avocado oil, it need to be unrefined, extra virgin oil. Unrefined, not refined. That means it's not been under pressure, under heat. And extra virgin, and can use it as a dressing. Mainly a dressing. Avocado oil is used for a dressing, not heating up like that. It's for a dressing. Put it over your dressings. Okay, we're on the fifth oil, which is lard. Lard, what they get when they take the fat of the hogs, and they put it on a boiling point of 374 Fahrenheit degrees. They get a 39 on the saturation. See, the saturation, it don't bend. Remember, straight line, because it's a natural fat, and it's monounsaturated. Monounsaturated is 45 and 11 on the polyunsaturated. So there's less bending and more straightness on the lard. So it'll be more saturated because it's a natural fat, and it don't take much for to get the natural fat to get in its state to eat, because it's automatically gonna come out. You put that bacon in that pan. You don't need no grease when you fry the bacon. Just put it in the pan. It need to be a ceramic pan, stainless steel pan, or iron cast pan. Those are the three you need to be cooking in. You put it in those pans, you're gonna get the natural oil out of there without putting oil in that pan. That's when you straight to eat it. And you also got your tallow coming from your cows. You put that ground beef in that pan of stainless steel, ceramic, cast iron. You don't need no grease. You don't need no oil at all in that pan. Just put that burger in there just like that there and fry it. If you cooking in the right kind of container, you don't need the oil. Because you put it in any other container besides that cast iron, ceramic, that stainless steel, you're gonna get some more chemicals mixed with it, toxic chemicals. So if you want to cook your hamburger, get your stainless steel pan, ceramic pan, cast iron pan. Put your some ground beef in there without any oil or anything there, and go ahead and cook it and let it produce its own oil, which is saturated oil. The fourth, we on the saturated oils now. It's turning more and more saturated. You're going to see the saturation point coming up now when they boil it. The fourth one is the olive oil, and you want to use the extra virgin olive oil, unfiltered, cold pressed, extra virgin olive oil. That's the kind of olive oil you want to deal with. You can use that on low, medium cooking only. Low, medium cooking. Extra virgin, cold pressed, unfiltered olive oil on low, medium cooking. It's not processed. Your 14 is going to be your saturation point when you cook it to 320 Fahrenheit. That's low, medium cooking. It's going to be 4 saturation. Unsaturated going to be 78, and polysaturation, unsaturation is going to be 8. So, extra virgin, cold pressed, unfiltered oil is alright with low, medium cooking only. It's going to be at the point of saturation. Saturated. The third best oil is coconut oil. And you want the virgin coconut oil. That's the one you want, the virgin coconut oil. And the Nutiba, Nutiba, is the best virgin coconut oil. And they have a saturated fat at the boiling point of 350 Fahrenheit. Coconut oil has fatty acids saturation of 92. And it's a lot of fatty acids, but they are short. They're not long fatty acids when they produced at a 350 degrees boiling point. They are more saturated. 92, the monofatty acid saturation point is 6, and 2 of the poly unsaturated. So coconut oil is okay to just stir fry a little stuff in, but not frying, deep frying. You shouldn't deep fry with no oil, because if you deep fry with any oil, the more you heat it up, it's going to produce more and more chemicals And I sort of find that out when I left that vegetable pack of frozen vegetables on the wrong cap that day. I found it out real fast, and there was organic mixed vegetables. The second best oil is butter, and it should be grass-fed butter. Grass-fed butter is a lot of proteins, and it's natural. So you always want the grass-fed butter. Not margarine, because margarine turns to plastic when it goes under that heating process. And you don't want plastic in your body, because some of these chemicals does turn to plastic. Butter, it's grass-fed butter, and it's protein residue from grass-fed butter. You shouldn't stir fry with it. Some people do. There is a boiling point of 302 degrees. You got 68 on the saturated fat, so it's good saturated fat, grass-fed butter. It's natural. You got 28 on the monos, unsaturated fat, and you got 4 on the poly, unsaturated fat. So no stir fry on the butter. It's okay to just brown or turn over some grilled cheese or something like that on it, but no frying. And number one best butter that can take some high heat is ghee. Ghee. It's the only one that can take some high heat. Ghee. And it's a natural fat. And you can use it for stir fry. And ghee got a saturation of 68, which means it is saturated fat. Mono unsaturated fat is 28, and the mono fatty acid is 4. So the less fatty acids are mono fatty acids, unsaturated fatty acid, and the less poly unsaturated fatty acids, the better the oil. So if it's most saturated fatty acids, the best it would be for your body and the less harm it'll do for your body. There are consequences when you raise omega-6 over the omega-3. And there's some products on the market. I had a first-hand on this omega-6 because I took a lot of omega-6 over omega-3 one time, and I got into some major problems in my body. And I realized it right after that. And I stopped taking the high doses of omega-6. I started feeling all kind of stuff going on in my body. And it resulted over some terrible stuff happening. And so I had to take some stuff to reverse it right quick. It caused a lot of inflammation and a lot of chronic health problems. And it will cause autoimmune sicknesses. And a lot of people are getting autoimmune sickness and wonder what's going on. You're going out to eat fast foods out here, and they're cooking and all this canola oil and so-called vegetable oil, which is soybean oil, which is unsaturated. And the hexane chemical is in it, which is like diesel and gasoline. And more chemicals have been made from it getting it cooking so hot a pressure, the oil, and it's producing all these autoimmune sicknesses of lupus, thrombocytopenia, and a lot of auto blood conditions. And you're wondering what's going on. It's the oils that they have cooked all the processed foods by itself is inflammation. Then you mix the toxic oils, which got the toxic chemicals in it. It's making it worse on your body. So these are the 10 oils from worse to better for your body. So the 5 best oils will be your ghee, your butter, your coconut oil, your olive oil, your lard or your tallow from your beef, your natural saturated meats oil. We're going to be coming to you with more on these fast foods, oils, and what you can do about your oils on the next video. Don't forget to like, share your videos. We love you, and we want you to have a healthy, long life.